Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Round Table Talk. I am your host, C Money, and we are here back again. Now, I want to reiterate. Last week, I did an episode. I did several episodes. We visited four locations. We was talking about um, the, you know, we was talking about three of the flea markets that got closed down. One of them got rebranded into a new facility, and we was talking about the and another one got rebranded into a shopping center, and one that closed down. Let me we talked about the USA flea market that got closed down, and it is now a parking lot storage facility for 18-wheelers, tractor trailers, and things like that. We visited the Opalaka High Live Flea Market, which is just an empty lot that has sand and rock, that is not really in use. And it got rebranded to the Opalaka Indoor Flea Market, which is a couple of blocks down. And then we went and we visited the Carol Mart, which was formerly known as the 183rd Street Flea Market, which is now rebranded as the Gardens Promenade, which is a shopping center. And today I want to talk about another location is set to close if it haven't already closed. Now, this location I was supposed to visit it, but due to my scheduling and all of that stuff, and work and everything, I was unable to visit. But we're going to talk about this, and we're going to elaborate on this, because I was saying, I'm supposed to go visit. Earlier this year, it was said, and we did a video on this location, maybe last year or the year before last, I'm not for sure. Go back into my hotspots in South Florida. Earlier this year, it was set, and I've seen it online, that the Festival Flea Market, excuse me, which is in Pompano Beach, Florida, which is the city of Broward County, was set to close last month in the month of May, because it is now June. So it was said that the company was set to close because the property has been sold off to make a warehouse district, meaning there's supposed to be a bunch of warehouses and stuff like that. Now, to reiterate on that, I have not visited yet since then. The last time I visited was probably when I did the food review for All Star Pizza, and that was probably the last time I did, if you go look at it. But it has said that the place is set to close. Now, it's supposed to close last month in May, because it's now June of 2025, and it was supposed to close in May. I don't know if it actually has already closed or not, but if you go look up the website, the Festival Flea Market website, I believe it's still up, because I did a couple of days ago, and it's still actually up. And it was said that the warehouse that is supposed to be turned into a warehouse location, but we don't know when exactly it's supposed to be closing. Just the same as it was with the swap shop. Remember, we did an episode of the swap shop, and I did several episodes of the swap shop. I did an episode of Hotspots in South Florida with the swap shop, and then I did another episode when I went there after they took out the Uncle Bernie's amusement park, where there was speculations and rumors that Amazon had bought the property, and it was supposed to turn into an Amazon warehouse. And but there was a lot of rumors around that, because remember, they said when the owner we all knew that it was going down here, because remember back in the 90s and the early 2000s, the swap shop had the circus. They used to have the Hannaford family circus, and one of the reasons why they took the circus out is because I think I actually told you this in one of my videos. If not, I'm going to re-elaborate. That the circus did not have insurance. As you know, if you've ever gone to a lot of these carnivals and these state fairs and these places like that, and they have like these performance shows, and I've learned and I've heard of it, that a lot of them say that they rely on the tips for insurance. They get paid by the company that hires them. Like if say for instance, you're going to Santa's Enchanted Forest, or the Day Kind of Youth Fair, or a state fair or anything, the people who runs the fair, they have to pay the performers to perform. but they also rely on tips. And I've heard that a lot of them rely on tips because of the fact that insurance companies don't insure them because of the stunts that they do is called death defying and risky. And that was one of the reasons why they got rid of the circus, because the circus people did not have insurance. And if anything was to happen to them, the swap shop would be reliable. But they got rid of them like in the early 2000s and so, And then after a while, they ended up taking away the arcade, which was on the inside of the second floor. And then eventually, about 2 years ago, they took away the only year-round amusement park here in South Florida, which was the Uncle Bunny's amusement park, which was one of my favorites. And they're set, like I said, it was set, and now set in stone. Now I don't know if the warehouse that was going to be replacing the festival flea market, I don't know if there's a warehouse for different companies, if it's a warehouse for Amazon or what the case may be. All I know from what it says online is that they are closing it and making it a warehouse district or whatever for stuff like that. Now my thing is, this is what is going down in South Florida, and this is really truly a disaster. You can see that a lot of these flea markets are being taken away for little to less of nothing. I'm quite sure Festival Flea Market has been here since the 90s, probably been since the 80s, who knows. I didn't really do my research on it, but they've been around here for a very long time, and I've always wanted to go. And as an adult, I started going, and I was like, ooh. And then remember, we did a video of Festival Flea Market. We also did a video of Planet Revo, which was a family fun center that was there, and then they closed because basically Planet Revo wasn't really making no money. When I went there, they didn't have a lot of customers there, even though I think it was a weekday or weekend, I don't remember. They didn't have really a lot of customers, but then it was a great place to go and have fun while the family shops, the kids can go in there and play video games and do a lot of fun activities. And then they eventually, but that Planet Revo had nothing to do with them being, because they left a long time ago. And now, now you have a lot of these businesses that are going. But there is saying that a lot of the businesses that are inside of Festival Flea Market will be moving to the Lauderhill Mall. Because, Lauderhill Mall is in Lauderhill. Even though Pompano Beach and Lauderhill is even though they're in the same county, they're pretty much, Pompano is maybe 10, 15, probably 20 minutes north of Lauderhill, because you got to go through, a lot of, you go through Fort Lauderdale, you go through Wilton Manors, Sunrise, and a lot of these places, and it's like, okay, and I do commend that a lot of these businesses will stay true and keep going, because it's a known fact, when a building closes, a lot of the businesses, they collapse and fall because, number one, a lot of them don't have the money and the resources to actually move somewhere else. Because let's say you're paying $1,000 a month to stay where you to have your business where it's at now, at a flea market. If you move, they may say you have to pay $3,000, and who's to say that your business has that money to cover the finances, or who's to say that you have the resources to move? Because it's gonna, not only it's gonna cost you, let's say you're at the festival and you move into Lauderhill Mall. Lauderhill Mall is an actual mall, so that means you're gonna have an actual store. It's not like Festival Flea Markets. Most flea markets, they're nothing but booths. They're little, booths and kiosks. Lauderhill Mall is an actual mall where they have actual stores. So now they do have kiosks in malls, because you go to Aventura, you go to 163rd, Dolphin Mall, Sawgrass, or whatever. They have kiosks, but their main focus is the stores. So now a lot of these places might have to be turned into actual stores. And Lauderhill Mall, I'm going to do a video of them if I haven't did one already. It's not a big mall, that's a very small mall, so it's like, where's everybody going to go, There was talks about this man that makes, flavorful pickles. And they say they're supposed to be moving to Coral Springs, because there's a pickle man that's there. Even though I'm not a fan of pickles, there's a man there that has a pickle shop, and they have different type of flavors of pickles. And I used to always like walking by because I'm like, ooh, pickles. Even though I don't really too much care for pickles because I'm not a fan of pickles. Sometimes I eat them on my burger if they come on my burgers, but actually eating them like how most people eat them straight out of the jar and just biting them, no. Or like they go to the pickle man and get a flavor of the pickle, no. But there are talks about, that he's supposed to be moving to Coral Springs. But a lot of these businesses, I do go there, for there's a dollar store that I go and get my reading glasses from, and they're very nice reading glasses and very good. It's I don't know if it's still there or not, but I know them. I don't have on my reading glasses right now, but yeah, there are a lot of things, and All Star Pizza, that's one of my favorite spots. So this comes to what I'm saying about this. This is another gentrification mode where you're taking away shopping centers and shopping places to make way for something that really doesn't matter. Remember I did a video a while back in South Miami where I showed where a Winn-Dixie that's been there since the 90s and the 80s got torn down just to open up a mixed-use development. And I'm like, for what? And I always say that there are plenty of empty lots here in the South Florida area, whether you're out west, whether you're, on the mainland, whether you're on the beach or whatever. There is plenty of empty lots that can be used for warehouses, for mixed-use developments, for a lot of things. And I'm like, you rather tear down a shopping center just to make a warehouse area. Now, if you've ever been near the Festival Flea Market Mall, across the street there is a landfill. There is a big hill, which is basically a garbage landfill, because I believe that's where they put all the garbage and stuff at. But if in the surrounding areas, you could build around it. They have areas where you could build, warehouses and stuff like that. I'm not too familiar with the area, but I'm sure there's lots of areas where you can build on. And I'm looking like you rather take a shopping destination down just to build warehouses for what? And what is the and this is the same what I said last week when I was doing the videos of the USA Flea Market, the video of Opelika Flea Market, and now when they closed the Carol Mart, now see, Carol Mart was already inside of a shopping center. It's just a shopping center, been there for the 80s and stuff, and it was kind of getting run down and old, and they revamping it to modern day stuff, a Five and Below, a Dollar Tree, a Ross, whatever, stuff like that. So it got revamped into modern day stuff, which I understand. But when you tear down a shopping center to make way for like condominiums, or you make a way for warehouses and stuff like that, it's like you're taking the livelihood of people who come out here and shop out here. That's like saying, I live 5 minutes from this mall, and I can walk to this mall and go shopping, buy my clothes, buy whatever I need, and the next mall is 30 to 40 minutes away. Now you finna close this mall, and now I gotta go further out of my way, regardless if I'm driving or not, or taking public transportation, because you want to build something and develop something here that is not going to benefit me. And this is what America is really being disgusted by. You're throwing away shopping experiences for people. A lot of people, I'm not saying that I know of, but I know, and some of you that watches it probably had experience shopping, probably had, memories of shopping at, the USA Flea Market, because I know I do. Memories of shopping at the Opelika High Live Flea Market, I know I do. Remember I told you in the story I used to go there and get my, pepper steak and rice, and memories of shopping at the Carol Mart, 183rd Street Flea Market. And then I certainly have memories of shopping at the festival. I haven't been out there, as much, but I have the memories. So it's like, how do you, why are you taking away what we experience? Like, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about that in another video. How about you're taking away things that of our childhood that our kids can never grow up on. Remember when I said it a while back in one of my previous videos, how how a lot of these arcades that used to be in the malls, you go in there and used to play the Pac-Man while your mama went shopping. You went in the mall, put it in the quarter, and played the Pac-Man and played the Centipede and the Galaxy and the Dig Dug, and you played Miss Pac-Man, and you played the little pole position, and stuff like that. You went in there and you saw the little arcade games, and you was in there with your homies, and sometimes after school you'll get your friends, go get $5 worth of quarters, and you'll go to the arcade and play video games with your friend. Now malls don't even got that no more, and even if the malls do have that, like we seen in Aventura Mall in a recent video, now they have the new age of arcades, where they have the arcades with the cards. You have to put money on the card, and then now they have these new games. It's not like how it used to be. $5 to get you some entertainment at an arcade. You go in, you get $5 worth of quarters, and each game was 25 cents, and you play those 25-cent games, and you be sitting up there and you trying to get the high score. Nah, it costs you about $30-$40 just to go to an arcade, and you be like, well, it ain't like what it used to be. And a lot of these new generation is not gonna experience the things that we experience. There are some people that grew up going to Festival Flea Market Mall and getting their school clothes, or getting their shoes, or going to get a haircut, or going to buy some stuff. Just like the three malls that my childhood was: Westland, 163rd, and every now and then I went to Aventura. But hey, look at 163rd. It is a ghost town now, even though it still exists. Westland, it's good, but it's not the same. And Aventura, hey, all three of them had arcades, and only one of them now has an arcade, which is a new modeled arcade, which is Aventura, because we did a video on it. But 163rd had an arcade. 163rd arcade even had a play area for the kids to play in, like Chuck E. Cheese, the little play area, play place, or whatever you want to call it. Westland had an arcade. You go in there and through the back area, you go and play some video games and stuff. Now it's nothing, and it's like we're taking our childhood away to build these apartments and condominiums and mixed-use developments and warehouses. Because remember when we was talking about the USA, there was supposed to be speculations of them, tearing it down, and it was supposed to be a Walmart built there, but Walmart got built a block away, like a half a block away from them. Ooh, excuse me. And there was also speculations that it was supposed to become apartment buildings and condominiums and stuff. And I'm like, And then look at it now. If you ever go by there, and if you look at my video, History in South Florida, it is basically a storage unit for tractor trailers and 18-wheelers and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, what is supposed to come of this? And it's the same thing with the Opelika Flea Market. That was called the North Dade Fairgrounds. But, at the same time, there was no talks about what this what this property was supposed to become on. Now it just sit there with salt and with rocks and sand and stuff like, what is it? Is you going to build another warehouse like you did across the street from it, or, buildings and stuff like that? And that's a lot of things that I don't understand. Like, these shopping areas made money. Opelika Flea Market, USA, Caramart, Festival Flea Market. Festival Flea Market made money, because I went in there and shopped faithfully. There was a store in there called As Seen on TV, which is a store that made that sold all the products that you used to see on our infomercials. They sold those products, and it was a store called As Seen on TV. And my mom had bought some stuff from there, and I used to like going in the store, because some of the stuff I used to be like, hey, I seen this on TV, I want it, and you can get, you see this on TV, you be like, well, I can go in the As Seen on TV store and I can get it, and a lot of these places, like All Star Pizza, and now it's like where these people are going to go is they're going to close their doors, is they going to actually pack up and move to different locations. You got to look at these things and see that you're taking away a lot of these kids' childhood, from them, and a lot of these people that have shopping experiences, because the Festival Flea Market was the only premier shopping experience in that area. Now where do you go at the shop at in Pompano? You can go to Pompano City Center, which is further away, and we're going to do an episode about that in the near future, which is probably down the I know it's off of federal highway somewhere in Pompano Beach. But now you don't have an area like that. Like here, in Miami, like there are not a lot of if you live in Opelika or Miami Gardens, you have you know three shopping malls that you go to. You either go to Westland and Hialeah, you go to 163rd in North Miami, or you go to Aventura Mall. There used to be another mall called Sky Lake Mall, and then there used to be another mall that we did a video on called California Club. Go look at my history in Hot Spots since I Florida. California Club Mall, where it used to be where you used to get $6 movies. Now it's just a shopping center. The mall probably still exists with an inside area in the back, but it's just a shopping center. And and I say in California Club, I used to take dates there and stuff like that because it used to be where you get $6 movies and stuff like that. And stuff because it wasn't modern day movie theater, and I'm like, and I'm like, this is what our society has come to, gentrification, and we talked about this gentrification and gentrifying these areas to where now they don't look the same. I agree with certain areas being gentrified. Like we did a video of the Liberty Square housing projects, which is in Liberty City, how they gentrified it and made it into what it is now. And I agree because they wanted to get rid of the crime, they wanted to get rid of the violence, they wanted to make a better living space for a lot of people. But at the same time, I look at it as if a lot of these places like Festival Flea Market, USA Flea Market, where people, this is where people lived at, this is where people worked at, this is where a lot of them businesses that was at the Opelika Hialeah Flea Market, a lot of them probably had closed down and couldn't reopen because they had nowhere to go. It was probably cheaper for them to stay there. And the same thing that's probably going to happen with Festival. A lot of those businesses are probably going to have to close down and move because they don't have nowhere to go and they don't have nowhere to. Yeah, so now you look at it as if, what can you do? How do you feel about this change of life? How do you feel about this? I want to know what y'all feel about this. Because to me, some of this stuff that I see, I used to go to the flea market and still do. Remember, I told you the last time I was at the Opelika Hialeah Flea Market, I took a date to when they had the Opelika Hialeah Flea Market Fair. And I took a date there and we enjoyed it. We walked around, bought a few things from the flea market. Then when the fair opened up and we went and rode some rides and stuff like that. And then it came down to the point where I'm like, okay, now, maybe a year later, it closed, and I'm like, okay. And then now it's the speculations of the Festival Flea Market being closed down to make way for a warehouse district for warehouses. And I look at it as if, so you're taking money out of people's mouths that worked here. They have to lose their jobs. And who's to say that their job is relocating? And if they are relocating, yeah, they can relocate with the job. But who's to say, like, for instance, if I worked at Festival Flea Market and I stay 5 minutes away and it's easy for me to get to work. Now, if I have to move and I found the spot at Lauderhill Mall, now I have to travel more to get to my job. And I'm like, yeah, it's not working out. It works out because the business can still live on, but now it's not working out because now I have to travel far. A lot of these people, they live near these places where they can go and shop at these places. They may have a store that they go inside these shopping centers and flea markets and stuff that they like, and they go and they shop there. Now the places may have to either close down or move away, and if they move, now it's going to be harder for a lot of their customers to adapt to the new move. That's like saying your business is in North Miami and the business closed and the only cheapest spot is down south, and then you have to relocate your business all the way to down south to maybe South Miami or Cutler Bay or something like that, and then you have to end up moving down there. And then a lot of these customers like, I'm not going down there because I like their business and I like their prices and stuff, but I'm not going down there just to shop for them. So it's kind of hard to do that. And I want y'all to know, do y'all think that this is right? Do y'all think this is wrong? Do you think gentrification is good? Do you think gentrification is bad? I think somewhat gentrification is somewhat good, but I look at it as if there are things behind it that may make it a bad situation, because I don't like gentrification when it comes to you turning down history and things. Even though a lot of these places are not historical, but in our minds and our hearts, they are history. Festival Flea Market is historical to me. Opelika Hialeah, historical to me. you know, USA flea market historical to me. A lot of these flea markets are, and a lot of these shopping centers are historical because they may not be historical in the books of the government and the law and stuff like that, but they are historical to a lot of us because we grew up on these places. We grew up going to the Opelika Highland Flea Market. We grew up going to Festival Flea Market and to, USA Flea Market and a lot of these other shopping centers and places like that because it's what we grew up on. We used to go buy our school clothes from there. We used to go hang out with our friends there. We used to go hang out and buy food there. Our families go there and go shopping and they buy us video games and stuff from there. We go get ice cream from the ice cream shop that's inside the mall. A lot of these places they get because they want developments that going. I did a video of Mall of the Americas, which is now called Midway Crossings there in the southwest section of Miami. And remember, I say they had a movie theater, and next to the movie theater they had an arcade. And I remember one time we went to go see a Madea movie, me and my family, and we ended up at the arcade next to the movie theater playing the arcade games and stuff like that. And then they took away the movie theater and the arcade and closed it, and then they made a Costco. And that was on the north end of the mall, and they took away half of the north end of the mall, closed it off, and then made a Costco. And I'm like, wow, you gentrified this mall and made a Costco. And I'm not a fan of Costco's, even though I'm not saying that I wouldn't shop in Costco's, but, and things like that. So I want to know how y'all feel about this. Do you think gentrification is good in this today's society? Do you think gentrification is not good in this society? Do you think them tearing down the Festival Flea Market Mall just to make way with warehouses is a good thing or a bad thing? Because you already know it's a bad thing for me. What do you think about them closing down these shopping malls and shopping centers and these stores to make a way for mixed use developments? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? If you have any, shopping malls or shopping centers that was in your area that you grew up on and they tore it down to build something else and it hurt your heart, share with me. Share it. Email me roundtable00@yahoo.com. You can also comment at the bottom of this page because I want to hear from y'all. I want to hear what y'all know, what y'all think about this, because a lot of these big time corporations are buying out these shopping centers and these shopping malls and these flea markets to make way for mixed use developments, and make way for bigger and better projects that don't even benefit us. You took away the Opelika Highland Flea Market. What you putting there? It's nothing there. You're probably gonna build another warehouse just like you did across the street. You took away the USA Flea Market. What is it benefiting us? Now it's a parking lot storage facility. You took away the Carol Mart. Now that I can give you credit for because that actually turned into something. You're taking away the Festival Flea Market to make a warehouse district. Where we're gonna shop at now? And a lot of the businesses, they're gone. So I need to know what you think about this. Comment at the bottom of the page. You can also email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. This is something that that is ongoing. A lot of these it's called gentrification. And it's getting out of hand and it's getting crazy. I want to know what you think about it. Just let me know. Comment. Let me know how you feel. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to check out our previous episodes that's talking about this episode. This is just elaboration. This episode was basically supposed to be talking about them closing down the Festival Flea Market Mall, but it also elaborated on the other episodes that I did, recently with the USA Flea Market, the Opelika Highland Flea Market, and the Carol Mart, flea market, to where this all comes into place to where it's they're tearing down our childhood, they're tearing down our society, and they're tearing down our shopping experience. And this has got to stop. It's got to stop. We can't live off of them tearing down what we built up and what we shop on and our experiences to build what they want to build. They can't do that. And it's horrible and it's terrible and I hate it. So I want to know how you feel. Email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. Comment at the bottom of this page as well. I thank you for watching this episode, and as always, stay blessed, stay safe, stay hydrated, and Get to these shopping centers, and if you know a shopping center that's closing in your area and you know that it's be closing soon, get to it. I'm gonna try to see if I can get to Festival Flea Market before it go. Maybe do a video of it, and before it closed down. Hopefully it haven't closed down yet, but get to these shopping centers and get to these stores before they close down, and support these businesses before they close down, and make it into something that we can never benefit off of. Get to them. But I thank you for watching. This is the Round Table Talk. I will see you in the next episode. Take care.